The alarm filled every corner of the colony command center. Red lights flashed across the screens. Ji-ho Park stood with his arms crossed, watching the evacuation ships lift off one by one. Each ship carried families who had chosen to leave. Smart families, some people would say. Families who wanted to live. Behind him, Da-eun Kim stared at her tablet. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen, pulling up data charts and animal behavior patterns. She had been studying them for months. The creatures everyone called monsters. 42 hours until the deadline, Tae-yang Choi said from his station. The security chief looked tired. He had been awake for 2 days straight, helping families pack and leave. After that, the coalition says we are breaking the law. Let them say it, Ji-ho replied. His voice was calm. Too calm, maybe. How many are staying? 127. Tae-yang pulled up the list. Are you sure about this? We could still leave, all of us. Find another world. Ji-ho turned to face his team. Bora-yoon was there, the young agricultural engineer who had made the farms work. Hyun-woo Lee sat in the corner, the medical officer reviewing supplies. So-jin Nam worked at her communications console, her young face serious. I ran away once, Ji-ho said quietly, on Kepler Station, when the reactor failed. I got on a ship. I left people behind. I will not run again. The room went silent. Everyone knew the story. Ji-ho had lost his family that day. The ships had not come back in time. Da-eun stood up. We do not have to run. Look at this. She threw her data onto the main screen. The coalition says Varak 7 is a death zone. 3 expeditions lost, but look at how they died. The screen showed maps. Red marks showed where teams had disappeared. They all went to the same areas. The valleys in the south, the caves in the east. These are breeding grounds. The creatures were protecting their babies, so they killed everyone who came close, Tae-yang said. That proves they are dangerous. No, it proves they are parents. Da-eun pulled up more data. Look at their behavior near our colony. For 6 months we have been here. They watch us. They come close. But they do not attack. Why? Because we are not near their babies, Bora said, understanding. We build in the plains, away from their territory. Exactly. Da-eun smiled. They are intelligent. They know we are different from the other expeditions. We can talk to them. I know we can, Tae-yang shook his head. You want to talk to creatures that are 3 meters tall? With claws that can cut through metal? With scales like crystal knives? Yes, Da-eun said simply. Because they talk to each other. They use chemicals, pheromones, and sounds we cannot hear. But I can make a device to copy them. To speak their language. Ji-ho looked at each person in the room. Vote, do we stay or do we go? One by one hands went up, stay. Even Tae-yang, after a long moment, raised his hand. Then we stay, Ji-ho said. We make this world our home. The last evacuation ship disappeared into the purple sky of Varak 7. The deadline came and went. The coalition broadcast messages, threats, warnings. Ji-ho turned off the speakers. That night, the forest around the colony glowed. The trees on Varak 7 made their own light. Blue and green and soft gold. It was beautiful. It was also dangerous. The predators hunted at night. Da-eun worked in her lab building her translation device. It looked simple. A small box with speakers and chemical dispensers. But inside was her life's work. Years of studying animal communication. Now she would test it on the most dangerous animals in the galaxy. Getting readings, Soo-jin said from her station. The young woman monitored the perimeter sensors. Something big, no, wait. 7 somethings. Coming from the west. Alarms started again. Everyone rushed to the command center. The screens showed heat signatures. Large. Moving in formation. The creatures the coalition called apex predators. The colonists just called them the apex ones. They are at the fence, Tae-yang said. His hand moved to the defense controls. I can activate the electric barrier. No. Da-eun grabbed his arm. Please, let me try. She held up her device. Her hand was shaking. Ji-ho saw the fear in her eyes, but he also saw determination. Go, he said. Da-eun walked to the perimeter. The fence was not strong. Just a marker, really. A line that said, this is our space. Through the gaps, she could see them. The apex ones were huge. Their scales caught the light from the glowing forest. They had 6 legs, powerful and quick. Their heads were wide, with eyes that seemed too intelligent, too aware. 7 of them stood in a half circle, watching, waiting. Dayun activated her device. It made a sound too low for human ears, but she saw the apex ones react. Their heads tilted. Then the device released chemicals into the air. The greeting pattern she had programmed. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the largest apex one stepped forward. It lowered its head. Its scales rippled with colors. Dayun realized it was beautiful. Terrifying, yes, but beautiful too. The creature released its own chemicals. Dayun's device picked them up. Analyzed them. The screen showed the translation. Curious, not aggressive, curious. They are curious about us, Dayun whispered into her radio. They want to know what we are. The apex ones stayed for 6 hours. They did not attack. They did not leave. They watched the colony, watched the humans moving inside, watched the lights, watched the farms where Bora grew earth plants mixed with native ones. As dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the apex ones turned and left. Moving together, graceful despite their size, Dayun came back to the command center. Her legs were shaking. Taeyang caught her before she fell. It worked, she said. The first contact worked, Jiho nodded. Good, because we just became criminals. The coalition declared us in violation. We are on our own now. We always were, Hyunwoo said with a small smile. 3 days later, Bora found it. A young apex one, maybe a juvenile. It was caught in debris from an old coalition expedition. Metal beams had fallen on its leg. The creature was crying, making sounds that hurt to hear. We have to help it, Bora said over the radio. Taeyang was already moving his team. No, if we get close, the adults will come. They will kill us. Or they will watch, Daeun said. To see what we do, Jiho made the call. Hyunwoo, get your medical kit. Daeun, bring your device. We are going to help that baby. They approached carefully. The young apex one thrashed when it saw them, but it could not escape. Its leg was trapped, then they came. Adult apex ones 10, 20, 30. They surrounded the area, standing just outside the debris field, silent, watching. Taeyang's hand was on his weapon. If they charge, they will not, Daeun said. She did not sound confident, but she activated her device, sent the message, helping. We are helping. Hyunwoo knelt beside the young creature. His hands were steady as he examined the injury. The leg is broken. I need to set it and remove the debris. Do it, Jiho said. For 3 hours they worked. The young apex one struggled at first. Then something changed. Maybe it understood they were helping. Maybe it was too tired to fight. It let them touch it, let them work. The adult apex ones never moved. They watched every moment. Finally, Hyunwoo stepped back. Done, the leg will heal. Give it a few weeks. The young apex one stood on shaky legs. It took a step, then another. It turned its head to look at the humans. For a moment, Daeun would swear it looked grateful. Then it ran to its family. The adult apex ones surrounded it, checking it with their heads and paws. The largest one, the one Daeun had seen before, stepped forward. It came to the edge of where the humans stood. So close now, close enough to kill them all in seconds. It lowered its head. Released chemicals. Taeyun's device translated. The word was simple, thanks. Then the apex ones left, taking their young one with them. But at the perimeter of the colony, the large one stopped. It looked back. And Daeun knew. This was not the end. This was the beginning. The young apex one came back 3 days later. Bora saw it first, standing at the edge of the farm fields. It was alone this time. The creature that the colonists started calling Scout. It is watching me work, Bora said into her radio. She tried to keep her voice calm. She was kneeling in the dirt, planting seeds. The apex one stood 50 meters away. Do not move suddenly, Daeun said. She was running to the farms with her device. Keep doing what you are doing. Bora continued planting. Her hands wanted to shake, but she forced them to be steady. The apex one took a step closer. Then another. It was curious. Just like Daeun had said. When Daeun arrived, Scout turned its head to look at her. The device in Daeun's hand beeped softly. She pressed a button. The device released chemicals, friend, remember, friend. Scout made a low rumbling sound. Its scales changed color, shifting from dark green to lighter shades. Daeun had learned this meant the creature was relaxed. Slowly, very slowly, Daeun walked closer. 5 meters, 3 meters, close enough to see the patterns in Scout's crystalline scales, close enough to see the intelligence in those large eyes. She stopped, waited. Scout lowered its head, the same gesture the large one had made. Dayun lifted her hand. Her heart was beating so fast. This was insane. This was beautiful. This was first contact. Her fingers touched Scout's scales. They were warm, smooth and warm. Scout did not move, did not attack. Just stood there letting the small human touch it. "I'm making history," Dayun whispered. Tears ran down her face. "Bora, are you recording?" "Every second," Bora replied. Her own voice was thick with emotion. That evening, the large apex one came. It brought others. 7 of them walked right up to the colony fence. This time, they did not stop at the perimeter. They waited until someone opened the gate. Tae-yang stood at the gate controls. "This is crazy. We are letting them inside." "Yes," Jiho said. "Open it." The gate opened. The apex ones walked through like they belonged there. The large one led them. It went straight to where Da-un stood with her device. Da-un held up her hand. The creature lowered its massive head. She touched it. "Razor," she said. "I will call you Razor because your scales are like sharp blades." Razor made a sound. Deep and rumbling. Da-un's device translated. "Accepted, name accepted." "They understand names," Sujin said in wonder. She was watching everything, recording, analyzing. "They have individual identity concepts." The other apex ones spread out through the colony. They looked at everything. The buildings. The vehicles. The farms. One of them, with darker scales, went to where Hyunwoo stood. It was the one he had helped save Scout. "I think this is Scout's parent," Hyunwoo said. He reached out slowly. The dark-scaled apex one let him touch it. "Hello, friend." "Thunder," Tae-yang said from behind. Everyone turned to look at him. The tough security chief shrugged. "It makes loud sounds. Thunder is a good name." Thunder seemed to approve. Over the next weeks, the apex ones became regular visitors. They came every day, sometimes alone, sometimes in groups. They watched the humans work, watched them eat, watched them live. Bora discovered something amazing. The apex ones would drive prey animals toward the farms, large herbivores that ate the native plants. At first she thought it was an accident. Then she realized the truth. "They are feeding us," she told Jiho. "They hunt these animals anyway, but they are bringing them to us. Like a gift." "A gift?" Jiho looked at the massive dead herbivore near the colony. "Or trade?" "Trade," Dawn agreed. "They bring us food. We should give them something in return." They tried different things, tools. The apex ones were not interested. Cloth, they ignored it. Then Sujin had an idea. She played music through the external speakers. The apex ones stopped. All of them. They turned toward the sound. When Sujin played drums, traditional Korean drums with deep rhythms, Razor made sounds that almost matched the beat. "They love music," Sujin laughed. "These deadly predators love music." From that day, the colonists played music every evening. The apex ones would come and listen. Some of them would make their own sounds, creating a strange harmony with the human music. Tae-yang slowly changed his mind about the creatures. He watched Razor carefully, the way Razor organized the other apex ones, the way it made decisions. It reminded him of military commanders he had known. One day, Tae-yang tried something. He stood in front of Razor and performed a military salute, a sign of respect between warriors. Razor watched. Then it lowered its head and raised one front leg, its own version of a salute. Tae-yang smiled. He had found his equal. Not everything was peaceful. A ship arrived in orbit, a coalition military vessel. Captain Rixnall sent a message. "Human colonists, you are in violation of coalition law. You must evacuate immediately. You have 48 hours. Jiho sent a message back. "This is an unclaimed world. We have the right to settle here." "It is a Class-9 death zone," Rixnall replied. "You will die there. We are giving you a chance to live." "We are not dying," Jiho said. "We are thriving. Come see for yourself." Rixnall did not come down, but another ship arrived. A science vessel, Ambassador Thelva, a Viridian who looked like a large insect, came to observe. She watched from orbit. Her instruments recorded everything. The humans working alongside the apex ones, the trade of food and music, the clear signs of communication and cooperation. "This should not be possible," Thelva said in her reports. "The data says they should all be dead, but they were not dead. They were alive and building something new." Da-un and Sujin worked together on the translation device. They made it better. more accurate. Now it could pick up subtle changes in the Apex chemical language. They have words for family, Sujin said, showing Daun the data, and words for territory. And look at this. They have a word that might mean friend. Daun tested it. She released the chemical pattern for friend when Razor approached. Razor responded immediately. Its scales turned bright colors. Happy colors. The device translated Razor's response. Friend, yes, friend. That night, Jiho broadcast everything to the galaxy. Videos of humans and Apex Ones together. Audio of their communication. Proof that the impossible was happening. The response was huge. Some people called them heroes. Others called them fools. But everyone watched. Everyone wanted to know how this story would end. Then the weather monitors showed something terrible. A massive storm was forming. The kind that destroyed everything in its path. A world-breaker storm. How long do we have? Jiho asked. 12 hours, Sujin replied. Maybe less. Jiho, this storm will tear apart our buildings. The wind speeds are over 300 kilometers per hour. The colonists prepared. They reinforced what they could. They moved supplies to the strongest buildings. They knew it would not be enough. The Apex Ones felt the storm coming too. They began to gather. Not at the perimeter this time. They came into the colony. More and more of them, 20, 30, 50. What are they doing? Taiyang asked. His hand was on his weapon again. Old habits. Daeun watched them position themselves around the buildings. Understanding hit her like a physical blow. They are protecting us. They are going to shield the buildings with their bodies. No, Hyunwoo said. They will be hurt, killed. Daeun tried to send them away. She used the device. Danger, go, leave, safe. Razor came close. It touched its head to her hand. The device translated its message, friends, protect friends. The storm hit like a hammer. Wind screamed through the colony. The glowing trees bent and broke. Rain fell so hard it hurt. Lightning turned the sky white. The Apex Ones stood firm. They used their massive bodies as windbreaks. When debris flew through the air, they blocked it with their scales. When a building started to collapse, they held it up with their strength. Humans ran out into the storm to help. Hyunwoo treated Apex Ones who were injured. Taeyang and his team cleared debris that threatened both humans and Apex Ones. Bora distributed supplies to everyone, human and creature alike. For 18 hours, they fought the storm together. Humans and Apex Ones, two species that should have been enemies. Instead, they were family. When the storm finally passed, the sun rose on a changed world. The colony was damaged but standing. The Apex Ones were tired and some were hurt but alive. And in orbit, Ambassador Thelva began writing a new report, one that would change everything. The morning after the storm was quiet, too quiet. Jiho walked through the colony looking at the damage. Some buildings had holes in their walls. Equipment was scattered everywhere. But they had survived. Everyone had survived. The Apex Ones lay around the colony, resting. Many had injuries, cuts from flying debris, bruises from holding up buildings. Thunder, the dark-scaled one, had a deep wound on its side where a metal beam had struck. Hyunwoo knelt beside Thunder with his medical equipment. I need to treat this, he said to Daeun. It is deep. It might get infected. Daeun used her device. Hurt, fix, help. Thunder turned its massive head to look at Hyunwoo. For a moment, the creature was still. Then it lay down, exposing the wound. It trusts me, Hyunwoo whispered. He began cleaning the wound. Thunder made low sounds of pain but did not move, did not attack. It trusted the human to help. The operation took 4 hours. Hyunwoo had to open the wound wider to clean it properly. He had to use stitches made for humans on scales that were harder than most metals. But he did it. Thunder would heal. When it was done, Thunder stood carefully. It turned to Hyunwoo and lowered its head, the gesture of respect, of thanks. We are even now, Hyunwoo said with a smile. You saved Scout. I saved you. Jiho recorded everything, every moment of humans and Apex Ones working together after the storm. He broadcast it across the galaxy. The response was massive. Millions of beings watched the footage. They saw the Apex Ones protecting the colony. They saw humans treating injured Apex Ones. They saw cooperation that should have been impossible. Public opinion shifted. Humans across the galaxy started questioning the death zone classification. Why call it a death zone if people were living there? If they were thriving there? Ambassador Thelva watched it all from her ship. She had been sending regular reports to the Coalition Council. At first, her reports had been skeptical. Now they were different. The humans have achieved first contact with a potentially sentient species, she wrote. The apex ones display problem-solving, abilities, social organization, and emotional responses. I recommend study, not evacuation. Captain Rixnall was furious. They are breaking the law, he said in his own reports. They must be removed, by force if necessary. The two officials argued back and forth. Thelva wanted to observe, Rixnall wanted to act. The Coalition Council was divided. On the ground, life continued. The apex ones no longer left the colony. They stayed inside the perimeter, living among the humans. Scout played with the human children, gentle despite its size. Razor walked with Jiho during his daily inspections. Bora made a discovery in her farms. Some of the native plants were arranged in patterns. She had not planted them that way. When she reviewed the security footage, she saw Apex Ones moving the plants during the night. They are gardening, she told the others. Look at this pattern. They are putting plants that help each other close together. That is advanced agriculture. Daun studied the patterns. They have been doing this for generations. They cultivate the forest. They manage the ecosystem. They are not just predators. They are environmental engineers. This changed everything. If the apex ones could plan for the future, if they could modify their environment intentionally, they were not just intelligent, they were civilized. Sujin discovered something else. She was analyzing the sounds the apex ones made during the evening music sessions. There were patterns, mathematical patterns. They are not just enjoying music, she said excitedly. They are creating it, composing it. These patterns follow rules, complex rules. That evening they tried something new. Sujin played a simple rhythm. Then she stopped and waited. Razor stepped forward. It made sounds that continued the rhythm, extended it, made it more complex. The humans sat in stunned silence. They were not teaching the apex ones to appreciate music. They were sharing music as equals. Taiyang began training sessions with the younger colonists. Not how to fight the apex ones, how to work with them, how to understand their body language, how to move around them safely. They are warriors like us, he told his students. They value strength, but also honor. Show them respect, and they will respect you. One day, Razor approached Taiyang during a training session. The massive creature watched the humans practicing combat moves. Then it began to move itself, showing its own fighting techniques. Taiyang understood. This was an exchange. He showed Razor human martial arts. Razor showed him apex hunting strategies. Two warriors learning from each other. But peace never lasts. Captain Rixnall received new orders from the Coalition hardliners, officials who feared what the humans were doing, who feared that if humans could befriend the apex ones, it would make the Coalition look weak. Rixnall did not want to do it. He was a military officer, but he was not cruel. He had watched the broadcasts. He had seen the cooperation. But orders were orders. He deployed orbital weapons platforms, massive weapons that could bombard the surface from space. Then he sent a message to Jiho. This is your final warning. You have 24 hours to evacuate. If you do not leave, I am authorized to use force. The colony will be destroyed. The command center was silent. Everyone looked at Jiho. He stood at the window, looking out at the colony. At the apex ones moving among the buildings. At Scout playing with children. At Thunder resting in the sun. We are not leaving, Jiho said. They will kill us, Taiyang said quietly. Those weapons can level the entire colony in minutes. I know, Jiho replied. But we made a choice. We stay with our friends. All of our friends. Da-un used her device to explain the situation to Razor. Danger. Sky. Weapons. She did not know if the creature would understand. Razor looked up at the sky, at the weapons, platforms that were too far away to see, but somehow Razor knew they were there. The creature made a deep sound. All the other Apex ones responded. They began to gather. Not just the ones in the colony. Apex ones came from the forests, from the mountains, from all across their territory. They came to the colony and arranged themselves in defensive positions. They know, Bora said in wonder. They know we are in danger and they are trying to protect us. Jiho broadcast a message to the galaxy. We are not leaving. We have built a home here. We have made friends here. If the coalition attacks us, they attack a peaceful settlement. They attack first contact. They attack the future. Ships began arriving in orbit. Private vessels, protest ships, even some coalition members who disagreed with the hardliners. They could not stop the weapons platforms, but they could watch. They could record. They could make sure the galaxy saw what happened. Ambassador Thelva sent a message to Captain Rixnall. You cannot do this. I am calling for an emergency council review. I have my orders, Rixnall replied, but his voice was troubled. The deadline approached. 12 hours, 6 hours, 3 hours. Sujin was at her console when she saw it. Oh, my stars, she whispered. Everyone, look at this. On the screens, the Apex ones were doing something incredible. Their scales were glowing, all of them at once, creating patterns of light that could be seen from orbit. Complex patterns, mathematical sequences, star charts. They are proving their intelligence, Dayun said. They are showing the galaxy that they are sentient, that they deserve protection. The display continued for an hour. Perfect mathematics written in bioluminescent light. It was beautiful. It was profound. It was impossible to ignore. Coalition scientists monitoring the situation began sending urgent messages. This level of intelligence had to be protected. This was a developing sentient species. Attacking them would violate the most fundamental coalition laws. Captain Rixnall stood on his bridge, watching the light display. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He had followed orders without question. But this was different. This was first contact. Real first contact. He sent a message. Not to Jiho. To the Coalition Council. I am standing down. I will not fire on a sentient species. I will not fire on humans protecting a sentient species. Court-martial me if you want, but I will not be the one who destroys this. The council convened an emergency session. The debate lasted for hours. Finally, they reached a decision. Barrack 7 was reclassified. No longer a Class-9 death zone. Now it was a protected development world. The Apex ones were recognized as potentially sentient. The human colony was legal, legitimate, protected. When Jiho announced the news, the colonists cheered. The Apex ones made their rumbling sounds of approval. Razor came to Jiho and lowered its head. The device translated its message. Victory, together, victory. Victory felt good for about 3 days. Then Dayun found something that made her blood run cold. She was analyzing geological surveys when she saw it. Deep beneath the surface of Barrack 7 were massive deposits of viridium. Viridium was the rarest element in the galaxy. It powered faster than light engines. Every ship needed it. Every civilization wanted it. And Barrack 7 had enough to power the galaxy for 1,000 years. This is a problem, Dayun said to Jiho. They stood in his office, looking at the data. Mining corporations will want this. They will pressure the coalition to allow mining operations. Mining will destroy the ecosystem, Bora said. She had joined them. The Apex ones depend on this ecosystem. So do we now. Jiho looked tired. They had just won one battle. Now another was coming. We need to control this. If we do not, someone else will. The news leaked within a week. Suddenly, Barrack 7 was the most important planet in the sector. Mining corporations filed claims. Politicians argued in the Coalition Council. Everyone wanted a piece of the viridium. 3 months passed. The colony grew rapidly. New settlers arrived every week. Scientists came to study the Apex ones. Diplomats came to establish formal relations. The quiet settlement became a busy town. Not all the new arrivals were good people. Some humans came who did not respect the apex ones. They saw them as dangerous animals. They treated them badly. One day, a new settler kicked Scout. The young apex one had been playing near the landing pad. The settler wanted it to move. When Scout did not move fast enough, the man kicked it hard. Scout cried out. Thunder was nearby. The large apex one roared. It was a sound of rage. Every apex one in the colony responded. They came running. The settler ran. Tae-yang and his team got between the man and the apex ones. It was the closest they had come to violence in months. "You are leaving," Tae-yang told the settler. "Now today you do not hurt our people." "Any of our people," the man argued. He said Scout was just an animal. Tae-yang hit him. One punch. The man went down. "Scout is not an animal," Tae-yang said quietly. "Scout is family. Now get on a ship and leave." But the damage was done. Some apex ones became wary of new humans. They stopped coming into the colony as freely. Trust had been broken. Da-Yun worked to repair the relationship. She spent hours with Razor and Thunder, explaining that not all humans were like that man. Most humans respected the apex ones. Most humans were friends. Slowly, the apex ones began to trust again. But they were more careful now, more selective about which humans they approached. Then came the real crisis. A human supremacy group arrived on a ship. They believed humans should dominate the galaxy. They thought making friends with aliens was weakness. They tried to sabotage the colony. They poisoned water supplies. They damaged communication equipment. They wanted to make the settlement fail so humans would leave and mining could begin. Tae-yang caught them before they could do more damage. But during the confrontation, one of the saboteurs pulled a weapon. He aimed at Tae-yang. Razor was faster. The massive Apex One moved like lightning. It knocked the weapon away with one swipe. Then it stood between Tae-yang and the saboteurs, protecting the human from other humans. Other Apex Ones arrived. They surrounded the saboteurs. They did not attack. They just stood there, making it clear these humans were not welcome. The saboteurs were arrested, sent away. But the incident was broadcast across the galaxy. Everyone saw Apex Ones protecting humans from other humans. It was powerful proof of their moral character. Ji-ho began formal negotiations with the coalition and the mining corporations. It was complicated. Everyone wanted something different. But Ji-ho had learned a lot about diplomacy. The Apex Ones have a voice, he said in the negotiations. They live here. This is their world. Any mining must be approved by them too. Some negotiators laughed. How could animals approve anything? But Da-Eun brought Razor to the next meeting. She used her translation device to let Razor speak. Razor understood what was at stake. The device translated its words. Home, protect home. Share resources if home protected. No share if home destroyed. The room went silent. This was not an animal making sounds. This was a sentient being stating its terms. Ambassador Thelva had become a strong supporter of the colony. She worked with Ji-ho to create a new kind of government structure. Co-governance. Humans and Apex Ones sharing power equally. It has never been done before, she said. Two species governing a world together. But then nothing about Varric 7 has been normal. The proposal went to the Coalition Council. There were long debates. Some species supported it. Others thought it was crazy. How could humans share power with creatures they had feared just months ago? But Captain Rixnell spoke in support. The military officer who had once threatened to bomb the colony now advocated for it. I have watched these humans and these Apex Ones, he said. They have achieved something remarkable. We should learn from them, not dismiss them. His support made a difference. Rixnell was respected. If he believed in the co-governance model, others would listen. While the politicians argued, life on Varric 7 continued. Sujin completed her work on the translation device. It was now small enough to wear, accurate enough for complex conversations. She had the first real philosophical conversation with an Apex One, an older creature that the colonists called Whisper because it made very quiet sounds. What do you think about the stars? Sujin asked through the device. Whisper's response took several minutes. The translation came through. Stars are other suns. Other worlds. We knew this but could not reach them. Now you bring the stars to us. You show us we are not alone. This is a gift beyond measure, Sujin cried. To think these beings had looked at the stars for generations, wondering if anyone else was out there, and now they knew. They were not alone anymore. Bora created an agricultural institute. She taught both humans and other aliens how to farm with ecosystems instead of fighting against them. Her methods started spreading to other colonies. Young Apex Ones learned alongside human students. They showed the humans which plants supported which animals. Humans showed them irrigation techniques and crop rotation. Together they created something neither species could have made alone. Hyunwoo trained the first interspecies medical team. Apex Ones learned basic human medicine. Humans learned how to treat apex injuries. When someone got hurt, it did not matter which species. Someone knew how to help. Taeyang achieved something special. Razor invited him to join an Apex Pack structure. It was ceremonial but meaningful. Taeyang was adopted as an honorary Apex One. He was family in their eyes. The ceremony involved Taeyang standing before all the Apex Ones in the region. Razor placed its head against Taeyang's chest. Other Apex Ones formed a circle around them. They made sounds together, a chorus that vibrated through the ground. When it was done, Taeyang was marked. The Apex Ones had a way of leaving temporary color on each other's scales. They marked Taeyang's skin with the same patterns. He wore those marks with pride. Finally, the Coalition Council voted. The proposal passed. Varric 7 became the first co-governance world in galactic history. Humans and Apex Ones would share power equally. Mining would be allowed, but using new methods. Techniques developed by human engineers and Apex environmental experts together. Methods that extracted viridium without destroying the planet. The profits would be split 3 ways. 1/3 to the Apex Ones for their world. 1/3 to the human colonists for their work. 1/3 to the Coalition for Galactic Development. It was fair. It was unprecedented. It was the beginning of something new. The founding ceremony was scheduled for the following month. Leaders from across the galaxy were invited. The ceremony would make the co-governance official. It would create a new model for how different species could live together. Jiho stood with Razor, looking at the growing city that had once been a small colony. "We did it," he said quietly. "We actually did it." Razor's response came through the device. Did it together, always together. The morning of the founding ceremony was perfect. The sky was clear, showing both of Varric 7's moons. The glowing forests sparkled in the sunlight. The city that had grown from a small colony stretched across the plains, a mix of human buildings and natural apex structures. Jiho put on his formal clothes. He looked at himself in the mirror. 6 months ago, he had been a colonial administrator breaking the law. Now he was about to sign the most important treaty in galactic history. Dawn was ready too. She wore traditional Korean clothes, a hanbok in colors that matched the apex scales, blue and green and silver. She carried her translation device, though she barely needed it anymore. She understood the Apex Ones without words now. Razor waited at the ceremony grounds. The massive Apex One had been groomed by its pack. Its scales shone like crystals in the sun. Around its neck was a ceremonial piece made by human and Apex artisans together, metal and scales woven into art. Hundreds of delegates had arrived from across the galaxy. Different species, different cultures, all watching. Some were supportive. Some were skeptical. All were curious. Ambassador Thelva gave the opening speech. "Today we witness something new," she said. 2 species meeting as strangers, becoming friends, now becoming partners. This is the future we all dream of. Captain Rixnell stood in the crowd. The military officer who had almost destroyed this place now saluted as Jiho walked to the platform. Sometimes people could change. Sometimes even warriors could choose peace. The ceremony was simple. A table held the charter, the founding document of co-governance. It was written in 3 languages, Korean, Coalition Standard, and Apex using the chemical symbols Dayun had developed. Jiho signed first. His hand was steady. He signed for all the humans who had stayed, for those who had believed, for those who had dared to make friends with monsters. Then Razor stepped forward. The device provided the Apex signature, a chemical pattern pressed into the document. A claw mark pressed beside it, the combined signature of the Apex people. The crowd erupted in sounds. Cheers from humans, rumbles from Apex Ones, clicks and whistles and calls from dozens of alien species. The galaxy was watching. The galaxy approved. Dayun gave her speech next. She kept it simple. "People ask me how we did this, how we made friends with creatures everyone feared. The answer is simple. We listened. We respected. We tried to understand instead of assuming, and we found that monsters are often just friends we have not met yet. Her words were translated into dozens of languages, broadcast to millions of worlds. Children across the galaxy would learn about this day in school, about the humans who stayed, about the apex ones who protected them. The celebration lasted all day and into the night. Music filled the air. Human instruments and apex songs blending together. Children played together, human and apex young ones chasing each other through the streets. Scout had grown. The young apex one that had been the first to be saved was now nearly full size. It stayed close to the human children who had grown up with it. They were its pack, its family. Tai Young stood with Thunder watching the celebration. The security chief who had been so afraid now walked among apex ones like they were old friends. Because they were. He had earned their respect the hard way, through honesty and courage. We did good, Tai Young said to Thunder. The translation device on his belt picked it up. Thunder's response was simple. Yes, good. Bora walked through her farms with a group of apex agricultural experts. They were planning the next season. New crops that would feed both species. New techniques that worked with the planet instead of against it. Other worlds were asking for her help now. The farming methods developed on Varric 7 were spreading. Hyunwoo treated a young colonist who had fallen and broken an arm. An Apex One he had trained watched carefully, learning. Tomorrow that Apex One might save a life. Human or Apex, it did not matter. Life was life. All life deserved protection. Sujin was already working on the next challenge. Translation between Apex Ones and other alien species. If humans could talk to the Apex Ones, why not everyone? She dreamed of a galaxy where all species could understand each other. As the celebration continued, Jiho received a message. It was from the Coalition Council. 3 other Class-9 death zones had formally requested human mediation teams. They wanted to try what Varric 7 had done. They wanted to make friends instead of running away. Jiho read the message to his team. They want us to teach them, to show them how we did this. We cannot go to all of them, Tai Young said. We are needed here. We do not need to go, Daun said with a smile. We teach others, they go. We share what we learned. It was the right answer. Varric 7 would become a training ground, a place where humans and aliens learned how to approach dangerous worlds with respect instead of fear, how to build bridges instead of walls. Later that night, when most of the celebration had quieted, Jiho walked to the edge of the city. Razor joined him. They stood together looking at the forest, at the glowing trees, at the home they had built together. I was so scared when we stayed, Jiho admitted. I thought we would all die. The translation device picked up Razor's response. We were scared too. When humans first came, we thought you would destroy everything, take everything, like others tried to do. What changed your mind? Jiho asked. You saved Scout, you did not have to. It was dangerous. You did it anyway. That is when we knew. You were different. Jiho thought about that. One act of kindness, one moment of compassion. It had changed everything. We were lucky to find each other. Not luck, Razor said. Choice, you chose to stay. Chose to understand. Chose friendship over fear. That is not luck. That is courage. 5 years passed. The small colony became a thriving city of 50,000. Humans, Apex Ones, and visitors from dozens of species. The Viridium mines operated cleanly, using the revolutionary extraction methods. The profits funded schools where human and Apex children learned together. Dayun became famous across the galaxy. Her work on interspecies communication won every major scientific award, but she stayed on Varric 7. This was her home. Razor and the other Apex Ones were her family. She watched Scout teaching young humans how to move through the forest safely. The Apex One that had once been a frightened juvenile was now a teacher. A bridge between species. Bora's Agricultural Institute trained hundreds of students every year. They went to difficult worlds and made them bloom. They spread the message. Work with nature. Do not fight it. Hyunwoo retired to teach at the medical academy. His students went across the galaxy, treating all species with the same care. He had started something important. Medicine without borders of species or culture. Sujin created translation devices for 15 different death zone species. 7 of them turned out to be sentient. 7 new civilizations joined the galactic community because humans had learned to listen. Tai Yang trained security forces across the galaxy, but not how to fight, how to protect, how to build trust. how to see potential allies instead of automatic threats. He wore his Apex pack marks with pride. Jiho governed alongside Razor and the other Apex leaders. Decisions were made together. Sometimes they disagreed. That was okay. That was democracy. That was partnership. On the 5-year anniversary of the founding ceremony, Jiho stood before a crowd again. This time it was even bigger. Representatives from 50 worlds had come. 5 years ago this was a death zone, he said. Today it is a home. Not just for humans. Not just for Apex Ones. For anyone who believes different species can build something together. He looked at his friends. At Dayun, who had believed in communication. At Taeyang, who had learned to trust. At Bora, Hyunwoo, and Su Jin, who had each brought their own gifts. At the Apex Ones who had risked everything to protect strangers. We proved something important, Jiho continued. Fear divides us. But courage, respect, and kindness bring us together. The monsters we fear are often just neighbors we have not met. The death zones we avoid are often just homes waiting to be built. Razor stood beside him. The device translated its words for everyone to hear. Humans taught us to reach for the stars. We taught them to understand the forests. Together we have both. This is the gift of friendship. This is the future, the crowd cheered. The sound echoed across the city, across the plains, into the forests where Apex Ones and humans worked together, up to the sky where ships from 100 worlds watched. That evening, Jiho walked through the city with Razor. They passed buildings designed by both species. Parks where children of both kinds played, markets where goods from dozens of worlds were traded. Music drifted from open windows, a mix of human songs and Apex harmonies. Do you remember when we first met? Jiho asked. When you came to the perimeter with your pack? Yes, Razor replied. We came to see the strange new creatures. We did not know what you would do. Fight or flee. You did neither. You tried to talk. That was new. I am glad we talked, Jiho said. I am glad you stayed, Razor said. You changed our world, made it bigger, made us part of something larger than ourselves. They reached the memorial, a statue built by human and Apex artisans. It showed a human and an Apex One standing together, looking toward the horizon. At the base were words in both languages. Here began the friendship that changed the galaxy. Jiho touched the statue. He thought about how far they had come.